Good morning. Welcome to another long overdue edition of Observations of an American Living in Germany. Well, I was noticing that the days are getting longer, which is kind of nice. Getting a little bit of sunshine. Need to get my vitamin D in. It seems to be cloudy here quite often. But anyway, you can definitely feel the days getting longer, and that's nice. I was looking on DW.com, which has a great English translation. Apparently, it's kind of like the German PBS, but they have news stories about the EU and Germany and sometimes the United States, things that our media across the pond doesn't always cover. I found an interesting story pertaining to cash payments versus credit card payments, I should say debit card payments to migrants. Um, there's a town, I'm not going to pronounce it properly. It's in what they call Thuringia or Thuringia, the state of East, used to be East Germany. It's called Greiz, Greiz. I guess it would be Greiz. But anyway, apparently the German government was giving cash to, I guess you call them refugees or whatnot, people from outside of Germany who migrated there, and a lot of the locals were kind of upset about it. So now they've given them debit cards so that they can't as easily send money back home. They can't buy things on the internet. And they put a restriction of the zip code on where they can use it, which I guess limits them to certain towns. And then they were getting about $500 a month on it plus $100 of spending money, which was given in cash. The story said that a lot of locals got angry when they saw foreigners in grocery stores with wads of cash. I can understand that. But anyway, there are some people complaining about the debit cards. The people on the left don't want more restrictions. The people on the right probably think that they shouldn't be getting the money in the first place. So I'm not a German. I don't have a dog in that fight, but I do think it's kind of strange when your own economy is constricting and you're subsidizing people from elsewhere, mostly poor people coming into your country, and then you're giving them money to live upon while your own citizens are being taxed and having their income eroded through inflation. Plus, housing is in short supply. It brings up a lot of interesting questions. You want to be tolerant, you want to be welcoming and all that, but you shouldn't do it at the expense of hardship on your own people. We have that problem in the United States right now, especially in some of our bigger cities. We're having practically, you could almost call it an invasion. Now, I realize the United States is much bigger than Germany, but nevertheless, we've had about 10 million people enter our country illegally in the last 3 years alone. That's a lot. And especially when they're unvetted, you don't know, they're not everybody's coming to pick lettuce and, do blue collar work. A lot of people, you could have criminals, you could have people carrying diseases and all that stuff. But anyway, that's not my point. I don't want to really get into that too much, but they said in the DW article that town in Greiz, that 29% of the people voted for the AfD party. Well, they're the so-called far right over in Germany, but I think that, the United States and Europe have some similar issues regarding immigration. You've got a situation where you need a certain amount of new people to, especially when you have a low birth rate, you need more people. But how many people can you sustain at one time? How do you have a very generous social safety net and have an open border? Are people going to be a burden, or are they going to contribute? How long does it take people to assimilate? I mean, you could really have a long discussion about all that stuff, but it's just something I noticed when I read the story. Here in the Wiesbaden area, I've noticed that they've started blocking off certain streets to do construction. They made some of the streets into one way, but they're not doing anything. They got all the equipment there and you never see anybody working. It's like they dig it up. They must have got their instructions from the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation. Pennsylvania is famous for that. They'll put 5 miles of cones up and block off one lane to fix a little section of guardrail. So I guess that's something common on both sides of the pond. But anyway, I noticed at one of the grocery stores, I went to Rave, and I also went to Lidl. Both are close by where we live. And they had the nicest fresh flowers, $2.99 for a bouquet of flowers. And I mean, these were tulips. And then I think another one was daffodils. I brought them home. My wife really liked them. They look really good in the kitchen. And the dang things lived for, it was about a week before the petals started falling off and they started getting discolored. They didn't even put any plant food in with them either. You know, it was just, we put tap water in it. So, what do you call it? Frisch bloom or something like that, the flowers. So that was well done. Last Saturday, three days ago, we went up to Trier, Trier, which is on the border with Luxembourg. That was a really cool town. We went up in the old, I forget what they call it. It was like an old castle, like a bridge. You know, you can go up and take pictures down below. We did that. And we went to the Karl Marx Museum. It's actually the house where Karl Marx was born. That was very interesting. They had a whole bunch of things about the history of Marx, you know, how he was educated, where he grew up, and whether you totally despise communism like I do, or whether you're an acolyte of far left thinking. Karl Marx was definitely an influential and interesting character throughout, in history. The weird thing is that you had to pay an admission price to get into the Karl Marx Museum. It was €5. It was well worth it. And they sold, you could buy merchandise. So, hey, you know, who knows more about capitalism than the people running the Karl Marx House? So, but they had a lot of artifacts, paintings, political advertisements from back in the day, little write-ups about where he used to live, and they even have the chair in there that he sat in when he supposedly was sitting in it when he died. And they have statues with him and Friedrich Engels. And they always show them the same height in the statues, although Engels was much taller than Marx. Kind of interesting. But anyway, it was a really cool little town. It was about 2 hours drive up there. We made a day trip of it. There's so many neat things to see and do here. I would recommend, if you ever are in the area, that you also drive up the Rhine River towards Koblenz and then cross over and come down the other side. There are so many cool castles up along. You can see them from the road. And without it being summertime, without all the trees having leaves on them, you can see things really, really, really well. And the Rhine River is absolutely beautiful. And I never realized how long it was. I think it starts over in Serbia or Hungary or somewhere over there, and it goes all the way up to, I think it comes out to the Atlantic in the Netherlands. It's different than rivers in the United States. It flows north and west instead of south, to the south and to the east. So I didn't even really realize that until I looked at the rapids and saw which way it was going. But it flows into the Atlantic. I think it's in the Netherlands. I could be wrong, but I think that's where it ends up. And we did go on a river cruise. We went on a Rhine River cruise back in September at night. They had a little dinner cruise and drinks and music. That was a lot of fun. And that's when I got a speeding ticket for €30 in Mainz on the way to it. So, and I had they say you have 90 days from when they give you a ticket. Well, it came in our mail. It was 88 days. So they cut it right down to the wire, but it was €30. I was going 56, or I'm sorry, I was going 36 and a 30, or 37 and a 30, something like that. And it was 30 euros. And then I got another one in October. So I've had three. Got one coming back from Luxembourg. I got one in Mainz, and I got one in Wiesbaden for 57 and a 50. And that was 30 euros, but there's no points. But good Lord, those cameras are everywhere. But a lot of Americans think there's no speed limits anywhere in Germany, and that is definitely not true. Just on the unrestricted sections of the Autobahn. But it was a very nice drive out and back, and the weather couldn't have been better. We thought it was going to rain, but it didn't. But anyway, I've rambled on enough. That's all I needed to say about that. But I just find dw.com is a pretty decent site. You get a lot of stuff on there. It's probably better than most of the American media outlets. Anyway, schönen Tag.